be the chain. Hey everybody, I'm Jimmy, I'm an addict. First, I'd like to thank God for another day clean. I'd like to thank God for everybody that's here. I'm grateful to be here. Earl, thanks for the introduction. Wasn't a Miguel one, but it was still good. It's an honor and privilege to be here today to speak for Firm Foundation for my first time. You know, I went and got this shirt today. Nah, I'm just kidding. I'm an alumni for Aquila. My clean date is June 26, 2022. Yeah. But the real reason I'm here today is because I surrendered, right? I didn't just surrender to, treatment or to a 12-step program. I surrendered my will to a higher power, right? Before I got clean, I lived in a tent for 3 years, right? And my whole life since I was 12, I've been in jails and institutions my whole life since I was 12 years old, right? I never thought that I deserved to be clean because that's all I knew, right? I was beaten, abused, I was molested, right? My mother was killed by the guy that she got high with, right? My grandfather died from cirrhosis of the liver, which was like a father to me. I watched him die on hospice, yeah. My grandmother, I watched her die on hospice as well from cancer, right? I had a sister that overdosed and died. My uncle, I watched my Aunt Tracy have a heart attack and overdose and die, right? And just so much more, right? That's all I knew my whole life was destruction. And that was two things I was sure of before I got clean. One, I was going to die an addict, and two, I was going to die on methadone because that was a very big part of my story as well, right? So June 25th, 2022, I like to say that was the day I surrendered. I didn't know it then, but looking back now after doing some work, that's the day I truly surrendered. Because when I woke up that day in that wet, nasty, moldy tent, I decided again to make a change, right? I was either really going to kill myself that day or I was going to go to treatment again, right? So I woke up, I got out of my tent, and I walked from 273 to the Rockford Center, right? And from there, I was in the same boat again, just like I always was, going in and out of institutions or jail. I'm like, what am I going to do this time? I begged my insurance to get me into another treatment center because I used up all my resources. They didn't really want to pay for me to go somewhere else. And last time I was in Bowling Green, I got kicked out for having drugs and using in there. But fortunately, I was accepted back to Bowling Green, and this was the first time that when I was in treatment that I stayed to myself. I really wanted it, right? So I completed Bowling Green for the first time. I was there about 10, 11 times before, and I finally successfully completed it. And that's where I had seen Earl, right? And it was weird because I'm out there, I'm smoking, and I see this guy pull up with a kayak in the back of his truck. He gets out the car, he's dressed nice, he got a big chain on. I'm like, is that Earl? Right? I recognized him, but I didn't know the man that got out the car, right? You could see the glow on him, the recovery. I'm like, wow. And I heard somebody say before, like, I didn't even know Earl was alive, let alone doing this good. Right? So I'm like, what's up, Earl? What are you doing, man? And, he's hit me with the suggestions, and I couldn't stand it, the stick and stay, trust the process, right? And that's when it was suggested to me, why don't you taper off methadone while you're here? And I'm like, oh, yeah, sure, I'm feeling good. I'm about, 3 weeks in. I got all the other stuff out of me. I maintained all my methadone. So I walked my jolly self up to the doctor and said, let's start this, right? But I didn't know they did 5 milligrams a day, right? But it was the worst and best thing that ever happened to me, right? The best thing that ever happened to me. Even though I didn't sleep no more than 5 minutes for 32 days, I remember that. Right? And I know my roommates probably still talk about me to this day because I was crawling from the bed, pooping and throwing up and laying in that nasty shower, right? But I am so grateful for all that, right? Because come to the end of my stay, I reach out, Earl, what do I do now, dude? I'm hurting, I'm sick, I go back, I use. The last thing I wanted to hear was long-term treatment, right? But I was willing, like he said, I fully surrendered, man, I'll do whatever. All right, let's go. They signed me up for Aquila. Now, this is the first time I ever been to Aquila. And this was the first time in my life since I was about 8, 9 years old that I had 100% of clarity of what I wanted for Jimmy, not for my kids, right? Because every other time I was in jail or an institution, it's like, I do this for my kids or probation officer or the judge, the job, the baby mom. For the first time in my life, I remember, what do I want for myself, right? Because I remember the prayers in that tent every night was to pray to God that I would just die, right? And then I seen how the prayers changed, right? I started to pray. I was like, let me get through one more day, right? Give me strength, right? And then the prayers I wake up is thank you. Thank you for waking me up today, right? Thank you for letting me feel the gratitude to having another chance to live. Right, so come to my the end of my stay at Aquila. It was suggested to go to into sober living, right? So I got accepted into an Oxford house. I'm still in that Oxford house to this day, right? So I moved into the Oxford house October 6th of 2022, and I was in H&I November the next month. I've been involved since, right? I got involved with Oxford House. I have an officer position with Oxford House, right? And I never thought that it would be fun getting clean and living sober, right? But the blessings that come with it, I heard somebody talk about it, right? I've been to Florida for conventions, right? I've been to D.C. where there was 60,000 clean. I want to say most of them were probably clean, right? I can't confirm or deny that, but they said there was 60,000 people there, right, from all over the world, right? That was like such an amazing experience. I just couldn't believe it. I met people from Afghanistan, from China, Japan. It was just amazing. I think Miguel was there somewhere. Yeah. It's just amazing. And one of the main blessings for me today is that when I tell my kids that I'm going to show up today and I'll be there to pick you up, they know that their dad's going to be there today, right? And it's cool, man, because like before I got clean, I didn't see my kids for years. Right? I thought my best thinking then was just really kill yourself, hurt them one more time, and let it be done with, right? But I know what them phone calls are like, right? I've got them several times, you know? I still remember to this day, the last time I seen my mother was I told her I love her and goodbye, right? At the time, I didn't know what an addict was. Even though I was in addiction at the time, my mother came to me in her time of need and needed help, needed a place to stay, and I told her no, right? The guy she went and stayed with that night killed her that night, right? So that was something that I felt that was my fault, being my mom's only son and wasn't there for her, right? That was my excuse. That was my crutch. Right? All these things that happened to me, I always used to blame God. Why is God letting all this happen to me and my family? But doing some work and surrendering, I realized it didn't happen to me. It was happening for me. I may not realize why it's happening to me. I may never know. I had to change my perception on it. So what I see now is I'm here to share my story. Anytime I get the opportunity to go speak, I say yes. Right? When Aquila called and asked me, they were like, hey, can you speak? I said, yeah. They were like, well, hold on, it's this date. And I was like, damn, I got to work. I got my kids. I made arrangements. I didn't get my son this weekend so I could be here. Right? Because it's all fun and games, but when it comes down to it, this is life or death. It's very simple. Every time I go into somewhere and I speak or I share, and I talk to the people, and they're like, well, my kids and this. And I was like, well, listen, here's the real part of it. Do you want to live or you want to die? That's it. That's all it comes down to. Yeah, you can use your kids and, all that for motivation, absolutely. But it's just so sad, man, that how people let me just say this. I don't think it's the drug or not doing a 12-step program that kills us, right? I think it's the decision not to do the basics of what kept us clean in the first place. Right? Because they don't tell you to get a sponsor in a home group and do steps and get in service just to, right? Just to stop using. It's the decision to stop doing them basic things that kept you alive, that saved your life, that you stopped doing, that kills you. And it's sad, man, because one of the many funerals that I've been to since I've been clean, a good friend, was seeing his 4 children up there reading letters, talking about how much they loved their dad, how their dad was so funny, he was always there. That killed me, right? And that's the thing. That's the selfish decision that we're doing, Because for me, I'll keep it on self, there's two parts to my addiction. Drugs, easy part was to stop. The second is the mental part. That's why we need to put the work in, right? And it's always not just the newcomer or somebody that's got some time that's hurting here, right? It could be the person with several years. So, you know, I'm just extremely grateful and like passionate about recovery as a whole. Right? I tell people, I don't care if you do NA, AA, SA, any, right? You need to work on self. Because that, for me, that was the main thing I was running from was sitting with self. Never wanted to sit with self. That's why I didn't want to feel. But it's just such a blessing to be able to have the foundation that I've built in all aspects of my life, that today, like, it don't matter what happened. Car breakdown, so what? Lose the job, so what? Get kicked out of the Oxford House for no reason, so what? Most of the people that know me know I'm just grateful to be alive today. The first thing I say when I wake up, thank you, God. I don't care what happens today. It don't matter. Because ain't none of us supposed to be here. None of us. We're grateful to be here. And to not be grateful that you're alive sitting here in this meeting right now, or this speaker jam, yeah, you need to think about it, right? So I know it's late. We're running a little past time, man. I just want to say how thankful I am here for Earl, my Aunt Dreama. My sister Sam is here in the meeting tonight, clean and sober, right? My nephew and everybody else that's in here, right? And listen, and I'll end with this. If nobody told you that they love you today and you're worth it, I absolutely love you. God loves you when you're worth it. Thanks for letting me share.